This is our long-awaited interview with Ty. He's long been a friend of the show. If you haven't checked out Lords of the Trident, for one thing, what is wrong with you?
Yeah.
Get over there immediately. They do so much for the industry. That Mad with Powerfest coming up, they're instrumental. They help out other bands. They just ask them about anything. They will give you advice. They've helped us out,
Yes, I have.
as well as being the most spectacular US power metal I have ever heard. And that voice of Ty's. Unbelievable.
Plus, he's almost as goofy as we are. I mean,
Yes.
let's
Yes.
get real.
Also.
So check out this interview. So it's been a long time.
Yeah, I think back since season 1.
Yeah,
Whoa. All right.
been a while. Yeah. So
Oh yeah, it's definitely been a while. We loved the VP EP.
yes.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, we
VG.
did.
VG. VP.
Not the VDEP. That's
No,
a
no, that's the
different
whole
story.
That's for tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Valentine's Day EP, right? Yeah.
Always stuck me as funny. Valentine's Day and VD have the same initial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Coincidence? I think not. Yeah.
We'll just
Yeah,
we'll have to write like a romantic. We'll have to do like a Michael Bolton style EP next, then it can be the VD EP,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's
So
like,
what
which
kinda-
one? You decide. You decide.
What kind of gave you the idea to make songs about video games?
I mean, like, honestly, a lot of our material, going back even to the beginning, a lot of the influences and stuff like that have sort of, I mean, influences from media, from video games, stuff like that. There's a lot of there's just a lot of songs that we have pulled inspiration from stories from video games, or worlds from video games and that kind of stuff, and just kind of kept it. I think we try our best not to, for the most part, like slam it into somebody's face, like say, we don't have a song where the chorus is like Final Fantasy, like we don't do that, because I think that's a little bit too like on the nose,
Over the top.
but
Yeah,
but
yeah.
a lot of the stuff, I mean, it's very hard when you consume so much, movies and video games and books and things like that. It's hard for those worlds to not influence a lot of your thinking. I mean, the part of the idea of the character, of like the main character in the Offering, which was a concept record. Part of the idea of his sort of character background kind of came from The Witcher, and that was from playing like Witcher 3 and getting influence from that. So I mean, there's been video game influence in a lot of things we've done, but a lot of it is kind of on the down low, and you have to kind of really look into it and think about it, and like he's like, oh, he's referencing that, So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
What about who came up with the idea for the graffiti cover for the EP?
Oh, so we were looking into doing something a little different. We had done, so we have this really 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 talented guy who does most of our cover art for most of the albums that we've done. His name is Andreas Safaradios, and he actually works for Wizards of the Coast now. He does Magic the Gathering
Oh, wow.
cards. He does illustrations for that. Um, and we wanted to do something a little different, since it was sort of like, all the things were sort of video game related in some way. I think Brian might have come up with the idea to do like a pixel art cover.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's a really cool idea. So I asked around, actually, to a lot of my friends who had worked in we have some friends who've like worked in the video game industry. And so I pinged a bunch of my friends, and I said, who's your favorite like pixel artist? And Jake from Aether Realm, he had done a lot of the sound effects for the video game Sea of Stars, and he's like, oh, this one guy, like, talk to him. He's a friend. He's in Scotland. He's really really good. And I was like, okay, and hit him up, and he was already a fan, and he was like, oh my god, yes, I'll do it. So easy
That's
peasy.
cool. Yeah.
I love all the little Easter eggs, like the bus destination is Trident, your cat's on there.
Yeah, we wanted to try to put like one little thing from each song, or like one little reference all over the cover. And yeah, a bunch of like little Easter eggs too. You know, that's always fun.
Yeah.
The whole album is great front to back, but John Milwaukee, wow. You could, at the end of that song, you could drop the mic, the drumsticks, and the pick. It would be like, bam. Such a great show-stopping finish.
Mhm.
So
Thank you.
I'm not as familiar with Road Rash. What made you pick out him for
So
this?
so we do I do like a video game stream every Monday. So typically when I'm streaming on Twitch, on Mondays I do like video games and hang out with the fans, and then on Fridays I do like a singing stream where I do like a karaoke request kind of a thing. So I think it was still probably during the pandemic. We were we were going through a bunch of when I started the stream, we basically started doing old Sega CD games because Sega CD was one of those consoles that like almost nobody owned a Sega CD, but I had one when I was a kid and I like specifically wanted a Sega CD. Um and I just loved how ridiculous a bunch of the games were because it was the first console that used like CDs ever. And so they had the opportunity to throw in a bunch of like live action footage and live action actors into the games. So a lot of the games were very experimental, and and there was a lot of like acting, in a lot of the games. And one of the games that came out for that, and also for PC and for a bunch of different consoles, was Road Rash. And I had that game, and I just remember playing the crap out of it and just really enjoying like the campiness of it, but especially enjoying the soundtrack. Like, oh my God, there was Soundgarden, you had Candlebox, you had like there was all these like hard rock grunge '90s like
Yeah.
hits, and I just I love Soundgarden, so I loved that soundtrack. So when the time came to go through the list of Sega CD games I wanted to show on the stream, because a lot of people had never seen these games before, Road Rash was high up on the list, and we had this idea of like, let's try to beat it. It's a ridiculous game to beat. So we spent, God, I don't even know how many weeks. It was probably at least 2 months, like consistently playing Road Rash every Monday night for like 2, 3 hours to try to beat it. One of the characters, so when you start up Road Rash, one of the characters that you can select out of the roster of people that can be your racer is a guy named John Milwaukee, or on some versions they swap it and it's Milwaukee John. The Sega CD version had it as John Milwaukee. And so, since I'm in Madison and Milwaukee's only an hour and a half away, I'm like, well, I mean, we have to
Yeah, yeah.
choose John Milwaukee. And as we were playing the game, more and more, we started to come up with these little like, tall tales about the character, because they give like a little one paragraph text description of like his likes, his dislikes. So we decided to like embellish it a little bit, and the chat really got into it, and they're like, oh yeah, it turns out in real life he's 6 feet tall, and he's or he's 8 feet tall, and and he can he once rode his bike through a brick wall, and he blah blah blah. And so we just kind of kept coming up with these funny things about John Milwaukee. And then when Brian came up with the idea for the song, it was very much a like kind of hard rock radio, revving your motorcycle kind of a feel to it. So I'm like, oh shit, I know exactly what to write this about. And I wrote the original like version, the demo version of the John Milwaukee song, mostly as a joke for the stream. I was not expecting Brian or anybody else in the band to like go along with it. I thought it was just going to be like a stupid little inside joke for the stream. Uh, and then it turned out he's like, no, I actually kind of think it's funny. I like what you did with it, and like let's keep going. I think I think it's a fun like sing along song. It's dumb and funny, but like let's do it. Let's head in that direction. So that's how we ended up with the Ballad of John Milwaukee. And all of his tall tales condensed down into one song. So yeah.
I love the video, and I was down with the video, and then as soon as you're in that sidecar, I'm a old school Jerky Boys fan. So the first thing I thought of was I was in a sidecar and I'm zipping up and down, where he calls the attorney. I want to know what I think I might have lawsuits against me. Like as soon as you were in the sidecar stage, it's like, oh, here we go, Saul Rosenberg, you know.
Yeah, that music video was a lot of fun
Yeah.
to shoot. It was definitely it was an odd one. So I have a friend who I've actually shot a bunch of music videos for. Um, and he lives about 30 minutes outside of Madison in a smaller town called Lodi. And he collects like classic cars. He's got a bunch of motorcycles, and he has a bunch of friends who are into that kind of scene. I told him I wanted to get a bunch of motorcycle guys together to do like a video like that. And it turns out that he is very close with um I won't call them a gang. I'll call them a motorcycle club.
Club.
You
Are they
know,
like actual orthodontists in real life, but they just, you know, they just dress up?
no, I think this is definitely, it- they
So they're closer to real bikers.
they're
Yeah.
closer to they're I would definitely call them real bikers. They are.
Okay.
And so I, you know, being the gregarious type, I went and met them at their clubhouse, and I decided to sort of lubricate the relationship by heading to Costco and buying a bunch of like 175 handles of like Jack Daniels. And so I show up at their clubhouse with like 3 cases of beer and 4 handles of Jack Daniels, and I'm like, "Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Ty. Would you like some liquor?" And they're like, "This guy rules," you know.
That's a great way to, yeah, that's how you handle it. Yeah. Yeah.
So I every time I went 2 or 3 more times, and every time I showed up, I would just bring oodles of booze to try to sort of lubricate the friendship, and it worked tremendously.
Yeah.
And by the time I showed up the fourth time, they're like, "Yeah," they're handing me like a jacket and everything. They're like, "What's this?" you know and I'm like, okay, this is working. you know but what they ended up doing for us is they have a yearly like meeting of all of the motorcycle clubs in like the surrounding area of Wisconsin. So we had like 4 or 5 motorcycle clubs that got together to do like some motorcycle club business, and
Right.
then be in the music video. So there was something like 100 bikers there, and some of the things that I overheard like walking through that warehouse. um One of my favorites was, there was a bunch of like old guys sitting around a table, and they were just like kind of mean facing each other and just drinking beer. And as I walked by, one of the guys is like, "All right, look, I'm sorry I shot you. I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry."
How long are you going to hold a grudge? Yeah.
Yeah. And so, and I was like walking by that, I was like,
Well, yeah. Yeah.
so there were a lot of fun stories. There were a lot of interesting characters, let's say, that we met and ran into that day. And overall, it was just a blast. It was a really fun day. It was a great thing to film, and I think they really got into it. So yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah. I do logistics for a living, and early in my career, when I actually gave a shit about my job, I used to go to truck stops and just kind of like watch the truckers. Like I would watch how they ordered their breakfast and how they lived. They were like, it was like Wild Kingdom or something, you know. And I
Yeah.
remember
Yeah.
one time I was in this Flying J, huge, Flying J, and
Yep.
the
Yep.
guys arguing with the cashier, going, "You mean you don't have a Zippo with Elvis on it? That's why I came here." And I just remember like he was really pissed off. And I was fascinated.
Amazing. Amazing.
Exactly.
To be fair, I would expect a Flying J to have a Zippo with Elvis
Yeah, I
Elvis on
mean, he was not happy. Yeah.
it. Yeah.
I mean, he made a 9-mile trip for that.
Yeah, that's
goddamn.
right. Yeah. Yeah.
What game was To Kill a God about? That's another great powerhouse one, but
Mhm.
I wasn't familiar with the
Mhm.
game.
Yeah, that one was inspired by Final Fantasy VI. Final Fantasy VI is my favorite game of all time, and it also happens to be the Baron's favorite game of all time as well. It's one of the things we really bonded over when he joined the band for the first time. So we already wrote one song about Final Fantasy VI, which was Figaro, and that was on Shadows from the Past. But the sort of like guitar riff of To Kill a God, it sounded almost identical to like the boss battle music from Final Fantasy VI. Almost, to the point where I was giving him like the side eye. I'm like, this sounds a little familiar there, hey, Brian. I don't know, can't place it, but
Yeah.
it's definitely like I loved it. The second he played it, I'm like, yes, yes, more of that. Like so uh so I mean, it was an easy choice. It's like, okay, make it about Final Fantasy VI. Why not? Everybody's gonna love it. So yeah, Final Fantasy VI. Yep.
That's great.
Well, I think you ruined Valerie by Steve Winwood for me because
No,
I can never go back to the original
can't go
now.
back.
I mean, that is the most kick-ass cover of a classic rock song I've heard in a long time. Why did you pick that song?
Oh, and by the way, I was upstairs in the bathroom and I saw it come across, and he was downstairs watching TV, and I sent it to the TV as soon as I saw your guys' video. And all of a sudden he's like, "What happened to my show?" I'm like, "Just watch it." And 2 seconds later, he was like,
Yeah. Yeah, what made you pick that one?
So that was a song that Aki and I had always really enjoyed. Just as kind of a weird non sequitur sort of a thing where it's sometimes you'll be in the van, you'll be driving to a show or whatever, and you'll throw on just random music because you've already listened to everything
Like
5 times
everything.
over. Yeah. And so
Yeah.
I think at some point Aki brought up like, oh, Steve Winwood, like, man, that one song Valerie, I really like that song. And we started playing it, and I was like, you know what? I love this song. This is one of these 80s songs that I grew up with where I'm like, oh yeah, I absolutely adore this song. And it's not necessarily related to a video game, but I do have a very, very visceral memory of every time I was. So to pull back a little bit, when I was a kid, I basically grew up inside of my local arcade. It was a couple blocks down the street from my house, and it was in a big mall. So I would oftentimes like grab a bunch of quarters, grab a couple like $5, hop on my bike, and bike down to the mall and walk into the mall and go to the Aladdin's Castle, which was my local arcade. And I had every single birthday at that Aladdin's Castle. I want to say until I was like 16. Um, and I distinctly, viscerally remember walking into the mall, you know, almost every day, walking into the mall and hearing over those like tinny, shitty mall speakers that have no bass and they're basically all treble. Almost every, like at least once or twice a week, when I walked in to the Aladdin's Castle, I would hear Steve Winwood's Valerie. It was like on their
Yeah.
mixtape, that they'd played in the
Yeah.
mall. And for some reason, I always encounter that. So that song has this weird interaction with like an arcade and childhood for me. And I
Yeah.
think that's part of the
Yeah.
reason why I just love it so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah.
The Aladdin's Castle was also across the way from the movie theater. So I also, every time I think about that song, I also smell movie butter popcorn, where I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah. I get it. I get
Valerie,
it.
oh, I'm gonna eat some popcorn.
So for the whole Tesla coil thing, how do you break it to your drummer that you're about to try to maybe or maybe not electrocute him? And how did he take the news?
So when we, you know, when I told him about it for the first time, um, he seemed tentatively interested, and I said, we're gonna go, we'll go check it out, and I'll have you take a look at it and make sure that you're okay with it. And it just so happened that evening, that we had the meeting with the Tesla Coil people, we were at a different function in the Milwaukee area where Master Herc had a few drinks, quite like
Okay.
maybe
Yeah.
more than a few drinks.
Right. Right.
So by the time it was, we were meeting the Tesla Coils at like 9:30, and we were at this event at like 6, right? So we had a couple drinks. Master Herc had a few more than I did, and we drove down to see the Tesla Coil guys. So Master Herc is a sheet and a half to the wind, let's say. And the Tesla coil guys like boot up the Tesla coils and they show him, and his reaction was like, "Yeah," you know.
Yeah.
And he basically agreed on the spot. He's like, "Yeah, let's do it. Doesn't seem all that dangerous." And it wasn't until the day of, when he was sober and we were putting the chainmail suit on him that I started to see the cracks in the foundation start to happen. Where he was like, "Uh, uh, is, we're sure this is okay, right?" And we're like, "Yeah, it's fine, it's fine." And there's a hospital 5 minutes away, so it's fine. Don't worry about it. You know.
That's comforting. Yeah.
But truth be told, we were the people that put everything together. They were experts. They had walked inside of Tesla coils before, and we had multiple safety features to prevent anything weird from happening. Of course, accidents can always happen, but it was quite the feat to be like the first drummer ever to drum while like Tesla coils are hitting you. And especially like 100,000 volts like hitting your head and the drum set and that kind of stuff. It was we took a lot of precautions, and it's good we did, because the strength of just one of those big Tesla coils in the back is easily enough to stop your heart pretty much instantaneously. So it was easily the coolest music video that I've ever done in my entire life. I don't know how I'm gonna up that. Like I wish more people would have seen it. It's one of those things where I was like, oh, this will go viral instantly. Like, no problem. Like no one's ever done this before. It's visually compelling. It's amazing. I was surprised at how it just kind of went, like, people were like, "Boo,"
Yeah.
that's okay. I
Yeah.
mean, in general, I still count it as a win, because, we were the first band in history to do it. And it's really freaking cool. So who cares? You know.
I like how casually you say we were meeting with the Tesla coil guys. Personally, I know no Tesla coil guys. Like, I don't think many of us do. Who are the Tesla coil guys? Like,
Where do you
if
find them?
where
Okay.
does one find Tesla coil guys?
This is the start of this story is going to sound like a weird fever dream, but I assure you
Mm.
that 100% of this is real. What I'm about to say is 100% legit. I'm not bullshitting you. So
Okay.
I was in Dubai because I had spent 2 years working on a musical for a wealthy friend of mine that was debuting on Dubai's Broadway, and he wanted me to be in attendance to help the actors sing their parts well. And the Prince of Saudi Arabia was going to be there. One of the princes of Saudi
Wow.
Arabia was going to be there, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I was in Dubai, and it was like 10 a.m. in Dubai. Everybody else in my apartment was asleep because they're all like 10 years younger than me, and they still have functional livers. So they were partying all last night, where I clocked out about 3 a.m. and they were going till 6.
Right,
Um,
right.
and I pull open my phone and I get an email from the mailing list of my favorite electronica artist of all time. It's this electronica artist called Starcadian. This guy never tours, never plays shows. He's more or less essentially a recording studio only guy. So I have been a big fan of this guy since, I want to say, 2013, maybe 2011,
Yeah.
and I've been following his career very, very closely. He'll play like one show a year, and he'll announce it like a week before, and it'll be like, yeah, I'm playing this. He lives in New York City. He's like, I'm playing this bar in New York City this Friday. I'm just spinning some DJ set. Come on out. And that'll be like the only thing he ever plays, right? So I've always
Yeah.
wanted to go see him. I've always wanted to have the opportunity to see him, because I love his music. So I get a message from his mailing list, and I'm in Dubai, and it says, the message says, Milwaukee, we're coming for you. And I was like, what? You know? So apparently there is a group of people who tinker on Tesla coils, who are also gigantic fans of Circadian. They invited him to come to play a show in Milwaukee through their Tesla coils. So he would run his music via MIDI into these Tesla coils, and the Tesla coils would play notes. You can do that with Tesla coils.
Wow.
And he's like, yeah, I'm going to be flanked by Tesla coils. The whole it's going to be in an abandoned church in Milwaukee. Um, You should come. And I have never bought a concert ticket so fast in my life. I was on the phone with my bank. I'm like, yes, I am in Dubai. Yes, this is me. I am in Dubai. Push this through. I need this right now. I am in Dubai. Yes, yes, you know. And so I got the concert tickets. I went there. I got there early. I was front row center for the entire concert. And I was just rocking out, and it was amazing. And unfortunately, the way that my brain works is I'm like, I'm watching this concert, I'm having a great time. But 50% of my brain is like looking up at those Tesla coils and going like, huh,
Mhm.
huh. You know? So
Yeah.
after the fest, or after the show, I I messaged the people that had put it on, and I basically said like, "Yo, this was a dream come true. I can't believe you brought Circadian out here. This is amazing. By the way,"
Yeah.
and we
Yeah.
started talking. We got on a Zoom call, and the first thing I asked them was, I said, "What's something that you've always wanted to do with your Tesla coils, but it has been so dangerous that no one has been stupid enough to try it?" And then we started talking back and forth, and they said, "Well, no one has ever like drummed while getting hit by Tesla coils before." And I was like, "That's
Wow.
it. That's it. We do it."
Let me get my drummer drunk and I'll be right back with you. Right?
Basically,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. And that's the story of it.
Wow,
That's
that's some
awesome.
story. Yeah. Yeah, there's electronic and industrial um metal bands. They don't have to tour. They can just they can just put out singles on Spotify, like
Yeah,
Celldweller, just get millions of streams and sell their merch. And it's just, I mean, for a rock band like you got to be like, you bastards. I mean,
I am envious sometimes. It,
yeah, I
it
would
does
think
feel
so.
it feels uh, it's like, man, I would love to. It would be amazing to just be able to be like a one man band and just kind of like do everything on the keyboard over here, push it out on Spotify.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
Oh, I get the cord.
for me, like a bunch of the
Yeah.
fun of music is performing it live. So I would
Yeah.
wanna I would wanna still tour. I'd want to have a live show. The logistics would be a hell of a lot easier if it was one person versus five. That's for sure. But
Yeah.
what are you
Yeah.
gonna do?
Plus Instagram is more geared towards one person than five.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
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 Exactly.
All right. So Mad with Power coming up in June.
Yep.
What are you looking forward to checking out there in terms of like other bands?
Oh man. So the headliner for this year for Saturday, right before right after we play, Dream Evil is one of the is basically the band that when Lords of the Trident started, we had this little get together, myself, Aki, and the original guitarist. And we kind of had this thing of like, what direction do we want to do? Who do we want to like sound like? Who do we want to be our influence? And we basically said Dream Evil. We want to sound like Dream Evil, and that's kind of the direction we went for a long time. That was kind of our main influence was Dream Evil.
Yeah.
So to have that band headline the fest that we put together
That's
is
crazy.
kind of a
Yeah.
dream come true.
Yeah.
So I'm beyond excited for Dream Evil this year. And then also, one of the cool things too is that on Friday, our headliner's Firewind, which is Gus G's band,
Yeah.
and Gus G was the original guitarist in Dream Evil. So the whole kind of weekend is this sort of like Lords of the Trident influence.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great.
you
Yeah.
know, I never in a million years thought that I would be like chatting, you know, um, nonchalantly over email to Gus G. You know, the craziest thing about that whole how this all happened was like Gus G reached out to me. Like I didn't reach out to Gus G. He was like, "Hey, I heard all these things about the festival that you run. Firewind would love to play it." I was like, "Hi, what are you saying? Oh my God." It was just like I
Yeah.
Gus G's emailing me. What is going on in this world?
Yeah.
I don't understand that. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. Definitely looking forward to meeting Elaine, the band Elaine, for the first time. Rickard and I have kind of been in each other's orbits for the Rickard is the guitarist. for many years. He's a really big Twitch streamer. He has a a very dedicated fan base on Twitch, and a lot of the fans that watch me on Twitch also watch him. So there's a lot of like overlap. So I'm really excited to meet him in person for the first time. Yeah, super excited for that. And then to have Bright Ear come over from Japan. We had 2 years we'll have 2 years in a row with a band from Japan coming over for the first time. So that's gonna be pretty cool.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I don't know. It's hard. I kind of help or am in charge of cultivating the entire event. So like, what am I looking forward to? Like, the entire event
All of
and
it.
then sleeping for 3 days straight afterwards. Probably that's what I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, I
yeah,
had a great idea for a duet with you and Moira from Oriad. That would be awesome.
yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
she's an amazing singer. I'm looking forward to seeing
Yeah.
them. I've never seen them live, but my partner Kyle, who helps me run the fest, he's seen them live and he had nothing but amazing things to say about them. So yeah, very very excited to see them live. Yeah.
Well, speaking of Japan, let's talk about your recent Japanese tour. How was that? You have some stories?
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. Tons
Yeah.
of stories. The tour was in general was really really good. Um, Comparatively to the last Japanese tour we did, it was 3 times the size, 3 times the excitement. It was great. We everything pretty much everything went off without a hitch. All in all, we had 53 people come over with us.
Wow.
So we had a group of 53 Americans that we were that we were corralling every day and trying to get on bullet trains. We only missed one. We only missed one bullet train, and only 9 people missed it. So that was a good record. I mean,
That's pretty good. Yeah.
I thought we were going to miss more trains with 53 people,
Yeah.
especially if you've never been to Japan, or if you're people listening who've never been to Japan. The bullet trains, they arrive at the station and the doors open, and they stay open for 60 seconds, and then they forcefully close, and you cannot hold them open. They will like
Wow.
close on you.
Wow.
So they do, the bullet trains do not mess around. Like, 60 seconds is over, and then they take off, and it's gone. So thinking about it, there are 53 Americans who are uh, in the wrong time zone in their heads. Maybe they slept 3 hours last night. Maybe we're jet lagged and lagged just from playing performance after performance. And we're trying to get everybody on a train station at 10:30 in the morning, and the bullet train pulls up, and now we have 60 seconds to get 53
I'm
Americans and
I'm
all of
trying
them.
to get Annie Ann's here. Just give me a sec. My
Yeah,
pretzels are almost ready. I mean,
exactly. So yeah, you try to get 53 people. I'm surprised that we only missed one train, honestly.
yeah. Yeah.
But
Mm.
all in all, it was great. We had the shows we played, and the locations we played were probably 2 to 3 times bigger than we played last time. We had Seven Spires along with us, and they were absolutely fantastic tour mates and wonderful friends. We've been friends with those guys for a long time, and I just love spending time with them. We Man, the shows were all really really well attended, really packed. A lot of very boisterous Japanese fans. Um, we had we had the 2 people who were responsible for um, all of the Sonic the Hedgehog music from like the 90s until today show
Oh
up to
wow.
one of the performances in Yokohama. Um, Adrian and I both sing for the Sonic Symphony, so we knew them. But it's just crazy to have them both in the same room, in Japan. And it's like, hey, if you like Sonic the Hedgehog, those 2 are the guys who made every piece of music right there, right in the audience. Hi,
Yeah.
you know, we're gonna have drinks afterwards with the Sonic the Hedgehog guys.
So
Um,
so the audiences are loud and wild there because the stereotype is that they, you know.
yeah, no, the Japanese audiences are not as crazy as Americans. We actually, at the beginning of the tour, like I said, we had 53 people with us. We had to, so we just recently got signed by a Japanese record label. The Japanese record label was worried that we, if we didn't abide by the sort of Japanese concert etiquette, that we may scare off some of the Japanese fans, or we might get a bad review or something like that. So
Right.
the
Okay.
first night of the tour, we actually had to sit down with everybody, and we said, okay, here are the differences between American and European and Japanese, concert etiquette. Here's what we want y'all to do. One of the biggest things, and one of the things I actually didn't know until this year, is that um, the etiquette for Japanese concerts is that you let people who come for a specific band go up to the rail to support their band, and then when that band is done, they vacate the rail. We're used to run, like getting in line early and rushing for the front of the stage and like hanging onto the rail for dear life and staying up there for the entire concert, no matter who it is, right? But in
Right.
Japan, they rotate out. So if we're playing, if we have three bands, if we've got like Japanese folk metal, Lords of the Trident, Seven Spires, there might be people who came who were big fans of Japanese folk metal, big fans of Lords of the Trident, big fans of Seven Spires. So you would allow them to go up to the rail for Japanese folk metal, and then those people would disperse, and then the Lords of the Trident fans would come up and they would disperse, and then the Seven Spires fans would come up. So that was much different. And yeah, they were less boisterous, although not by much. I think we had a little announcement at the beginning of our set in Japanese, saying like, "Hey, we want you to be loud. We want you to headbang. We want you to mosh pit. We want you to take pictures. We want you to take video. It's totally okay." Normally, those sort of things are like less okay.
Yeah.
But
Right.
but we essentially gave them permission to do that. So I think a lot of them took that permission and let loose. So yeah, less boisterous, but just by a little, I'd say. Yeah.
Interesting.
Did you have any crazy fan interactions? I like the one who wrote up the whole thing on the Instagram and was trying to get pictures, and Baron was out by the car guarding it. And
Yeah, there was one guy who, like you said, there's one guy who every time we posted on Instagram, he would do a sketch of it and then he'd repost it and tag us. And so I kept like reposting those sketches. And I was so enthralled by this. I was just waiting for every time I posted on Instagram. I'm like, come on, come on, come on. And then he showed up to the last show in Fukuoka and he gave me all of the originals.
wow.
So I have all of his original sketches up on the wall now, which is just so cool. I
That
was
is really cool.
floored
Yeah.
by it.
Yeah.
But there were pretty much everybody who came to our shows in 2022 showed up to this tour, and they wore like last tour shirt, so you could tell who they were. It's one of the interesting things. I don't know where we got this from. We seem to have a pretty large contingent of like grandmas who really like us over in Japan.
You're
Like
good with the over 70 crowd.
I it, there were some old there consistently there was like older women in the front, and I was just sort of like, okay, I don't know how we
That's
got this,
funny.
but all right, okay. Like I like
They're like
bedtime.
knitting Afghans. They're knitting
Yeah,
Afghans.
I'm like, who likes coming home early? Woo! Yeah, me too.
I'm a Tom Jones fan. Here's my panties. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, so it was I mean, but overall I think the fans were just really, it's so rare to have an American band, especially like not a huge American band, come over and play Japan, because it's so expensive. The logistics are crazy. If you don't speak Japanese or you don't have anybody who speaks Japanese, it's very, very difficult to set anything up. Their infrastructure in terms of concerts is a lot different than anywhere else in the world. In America or Europe, you can call up a club and be like, "Hey, you got Wednesday free? We're coming through. We'll play for a cut of the door," right? In
Right.
Japan, because space is so limited, they essentially they make you rent out a room. So you spend $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 to rent out a room for the night with the sound guys, and then you make that money back by selling tickets. And that's like the only way you can do it. There's no cut of the door. There's no nothing like that. You have to rent every place that you play. So if you don't speak Japanese and you don't have a bunch of, if you don't have a Japanese record label or a Japanese production company to handle that for you, it can be very difficult to set up a DIY tour, because essentially what you have to do is you have to call up a bunch of like Japanese bands and say like, "Hey, you want to open for us? Oh, also, would you, pay all the money to rent the live house? And would you sell all the tickets? Oh, and also, when we show up, we're going to take most of the money. Is that okay? Is that cool?" And like dude, I'm from the Midwest. I can't do that to people. Like
Yeah.
that infringes upon my sense of Midwest nice. I can't do that. So,
Yeah.
we had to get a production company to help us out to do that, to cover some of the costs with that. But yeah, I mean, all in all, the booking and production company absolutely killed it. They're called Cicada Live. They're amazing folks to work with. Probably the best booking agency I've ever worked with in my entire life, hands down. So yeah, it was really fun. We ended up, in terms of other crazy stories, we ended up go. We have a friend in and a fan in Tokyo who to tread lightly here, but may or may not be associated with Japanese mafia.
Hmm. I knew you were going to say that somehow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And he runs a series of like clubs where beautiful women hang out and talk to you. Um, and we went to one of these clubs last time, and we had no idea what we were in store for. We had a absolute blast. He's a legitimate fan, so he showed up and he was just over the moon that the band was there. So he like brought out 5 bottles of Grey Goose vodka and five and tequila bottles and 3 pitchers of beer and pizzas and popcorn and sing some karaoke and here's some women to talk to and here you have whatever you want at the bar. And so, we told him, I hit him up and I said, we're coming back. We're with this other band. Can we stop by your place? And he's like, I have a new bar. You should come to the new bar. And I was like, oh, okay. Um, some of the, when we went to the old bar, we kind of had the vibe of like, are we, because like we didn't pay for anything. And we thought maybe someone would like lose a kidney at the end of the night, that kind of a thing. But everything was great, and he was an absolute gentleman, and he was great. And so a lot of us, a lot of the band was sort of like, yeah, I don't know if I really want that experience again. But Seven Spires was like, oh, we want to go to a mafia bar, hell yeah. So we went to his new bar, and again, he just showered us with hospitality. He was an absolute sweetheart. I love this guy. And it just so happened that Terry Bozzio, the drummer for Frank Zappa, his son happened to be there at the exact same time. His son was very drunk, very
Okay.
drunk, and ended up like barging into our private room and singing Creed karaoke while we like stood and watched, like mouths agape, just sort of like Terry Bozzio's son is singing
Right.
Creed karaoke in
He
Japan.
was Zappa's favorite drummer too.
And
He was Zappa's favorite drummer. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's like we're at a mafia
Wow.
bar surrounded by like odd, beautiful like ladies that don't know what to do with us, and Terry Bozzio's son is singing Creed. I like you can't write this stuff. It doesn't even
No, it's too bizarre. Like it's like your Dubai story. It's too crazy to be made up. It can't be. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I mean, I have so many of these stories where I'm like, I don't know how I got here, but I swear this is true. I swear this is 100%. I'm not making any of this up. I swear this is
no, it's great. Yeah. Mhm.
How
so.
did you pull off the flaming mic trick? I like that.
Um, so I have always been a bit of a pyro head, even from when I was very little. I used to play with fireworks a lot. I blame my grandpa for this because Fourth of July was his favorite holiday, and he would literally pull me out of school a couple days before, and we would spend the entire day like going, to 3 or 4 different cities to find the best deal and the most illegal fireworks we could find, right? And so I loved Fourth of July. I loved everything pyrotechnic. Um, and I you know I saw this like YouTube video of a magician who was like juggling little balls of like cotton balls with fire, like on fire, with just Zippo lighter fluid and holding them without getting burned. And it kind of got my thought process going, and I'm like, I have a dead microphone. I've got a microphone that doesn't work anymore. I wonder what would happen if I just took all the gut. It's made of metal, so if I just took all the guts out of it and I stuffed in like 100% black cotton where the head of the microphone would be, I could probably light that on fire. I could probably like light that on fire a lot, you know, and that would be kind of something fun to do. So I did that, and, and obviously immediate reaction. Hard to not react to that.
Right.
So the pyro game sort of expanded and expanded, expanded. Um, and it's fortunate or unfortunate that we're at the point where if we want to go any bigger, we have to like kind of orchestrate with fire marshals to, to do these sort of things. But I am thankful that I got to the point where, the band legitimately bought 2 flamethrowers, with
Wow.
band money. The oddest thing about that too was I found those flamethrowers on Walmart.com, and they were being sold by the American Children's Cancer Society. And
Wow.
it brings up too many questions. Why did the
Right.
cancer children have flamethrowers? What were they using them for? The most important question is, did I take the flamethrowers away from the cancer children? Like, why did they even?
Well,
Why were
they were
they
selling
selling?
them. I mean, if they're selling them,
Were they
so.
selling them to raise money, or did they just use them for some cancer child once, and then they're like, okay, up on Walmart.com they go. You know, I
I say we just blame the whole thing on Great White. It's all their fault for burning
oh,
that
dude,
place down,
this is so Great White is why I do not like my general MO when I'm playing just a club. I don't tell anybody about the pyro because we've knock on wood, we've never had an incident, never. And the flames are like
That's the same thing Jack White said. You know that. I mean,
yeah,
like, for example, oh, Jack
the, the
Russell. Sorry, Jack Russell. Yeah.
the flames are this tall, and I can blow them out with my breath. You know, like the chances of it actually lighting something on fire are so low, and I mean, I think our track record shows that we don't do anything crazy. But every time I've asked for permission instead of forgiveness,
Yeah.
every time they say no.
Right.
And then if I don't tell anybody, 95% of the time, the club owners are like, that was fucking cool, man. 5%
Yeah.
of the time, they're like, hey, don't do that again.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
but that only happens like 5% of the time. So,
Well, I always felt like Great White got crucified for decades of decadence. I mean, so many bands, they didn't have pyro experts. I mean, it just happened to go bad for them, and they kind of paid the price for everybody else. I mean,
well, and I mean, the pyro they were using was not, it was for like a state fair. You shouldn't have used it in a, like, it was like I can reach up and touch this. They were in the same style of club. You
right,
shouldn't have been
right.
using pyro that shoots like 50 feet in the air if
Yeah,
your ceiling is 10 feet in the air. It's like,
yeah.
no,
God.
so
Have you ever been to Myrtle Beach around the 4th of July?
I've been to Myrtle Beach, but never on the fourth. No, no.
Well, they sell like anywhere you can buy like professional grade fireworks. And I used to take my kids every year, and they were all excited because they only had to be 16 to buy them. So I took them there, and my son gets a cart, and I'm like, a cart? Should I be afraid right
Yeah.
now? A
Mhm.
cart. But anyway, when you go down to the beach, you don't need to go to a show.
Right.
Everybody is setting off fireworks all night. And I was watching this extremely drunk old lady, cigarette dangling out of her mouth, trying to light stuff off. And I'm going to my kids, back up, back up. Oh my God, back up.
Not a good combo. Alcohol plus
But
fireworks.
yeah,
Yeah.
we wanted to watch, but back up.
Yeah. Oh man, that's amazing. We have a, that reminds me of like uh we have a fan who, a very big super fan of ours, who um has a great cabin, and she invites us out to her 4th of July fest every year. And she and her husband are, people of means, we'll say, and they have access to those sort of like, city style like giganto fireworks, except they're being shot out like of these mortars that are like 20 feet in front of you. So it's like and then you see
Wow.
explosion,
Yeah.
and then you feel like the burnt black powder like hitting your face. So like I put like sunglasses on because I just keep.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, so those I love that. I live for that. The rest of the guys maybe not so much, but I always have been a pyro guy for forever. I love playing with fire, and I'm lucky that I get to continue doing that, much to the chagrin of local bar owners.
Should we do our game? I don't think we did our game in season 1.
Okay.
But we have a game. I have 100 questions in front of me. I want you to
Okay.
pick 5 numbers between 1 and 100, and that'll correspond to the random questions you will answer.
Cool. 67.
We'll do one at a time. Just keep going, and we'll do all the numbers.
Oh, okay. 67, 14, 42, 31, and 99. 99. Ooh.
67. What are your feelings about psychics?
I don't think they're real, but I think they're good at reading people's general emotions.
Definitely. I always think of that scene in The Wizard of Oz where she blindfolds her and goes through her bag real quick. I got it now. Oh, I love it. 14. What are your most unpopular food options? Stuff that you eat that other people are like, oh, no, no.
Oh. Okay. Um.
The
I,
cheese
I mean,
curds. I know the cheese curds is
I
a
mean, cheese
thing.
curds are not unpopular though. I I um I think I can think of 2 things. I am an absolute pickle fiend. I will order. I have a speech that I give at every restaurant that everyone in my band has memorized by this point. And I say to the waiter or waitress, I say, you know, can I get extra pickles, and please like take a plate and stop putting pickles on the plate at the point where you say to yourself, there's no way this man would want that many pickles. That's the exact amount of pickles that I want.
Right. Okay. When
One
everyone's
time,
facial expression changes, that's
yeah,
when, yeah.
one
Okay.
time I did that at my local bar and restaurant. I came in, late. I want to say it's 8:30. I came after a Madison Area Music Association meeting. There was a woman who I'd never seen before at the bar. I ordered from the late bar menu. I had a flatbread pizza, and she was a younger lady, kind of a little sassy, a little sour, a little like meh. And I gave her the pickle spiel, and she's like, "Okay." She comes back from the kitchen, and she has a dinner plate with a mound. I mean, like a fucking mound of pickles. This would have been equivalent to probably like 2.5 jars of
Wow.
pickles. And she puts it in front of me, and she goes, "Here you go, pickle guy," expecting me to not eat them all.
Oh, okay.
And I was one of 2 people at the bar, and I was like, "Fuck yeah!" And I sat there, and I had eye contact with her the entire time. I ate every last pickle on that plate, and
Oh,
she just turned like she turned green. She was like, "Oh, oh God, no, no! Why is he still doing it? Why?"
that's
And I
great.
was like,
Pickle
"You
guy.
fucking tried. You tried, and you don't mess with the pickle guy."
Don't mess with pickle guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's the one thing I can think of. The other thing I can think of is when I was a I was more of a picky eater when I was a kid. We used to go to this buffet every Easter where they would have somebody with a big ham, and they cut off the slices. So I get a slice of ham, and on top of the ham, I would take the ham and I'd go back to the salad bar area of the buffet, and I'd load up the top of the ham slices with fake bacon bits and shredded cheese. Um, and I still do that to this day.
Okay.
Only on special occasions. Only during Easter or Christmas or whatever. But my wife has acquiesced to the fact that I am, maybe an 8-year-old in a 40-year-old's body. Um, and that's probably the other thing that I would say that people would probably look at with the side eye. It's just nostalgic for me. I don't know what it is. It's just
Yeah.
something about the salty fake crunch of like basically cardboard
Right.
on the top of like sweet ham, and then mixed in with like shredded cheddar cheese. There's something about it that just like unlocks childhood magic for me.
Right. I get, no, I totally get it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's like that with pickles. I got there's a place called Jersey Pickles, and I ordered some stuff from them because they've got like neat stuff like horseradish and spicy and hot
Yeah.
tomato. Well, it came,
Yeah, pickled tomatoes are like a white
and he was
trash
home when it
Baltimore
came, and
thing.
he's like,
Yeah.
"Pickles came." I was like, "Well, Merry Christmas. I guess I can't wrap them. Just get." They were gone the next day.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Gone. All
Yep.
right. 42. I might know the answer to this. Can you say hello in another language?
Yeah. Well, it depends on the type of time of day. So I think right now we'd say konbanwa. So, but if it was the middle of the day, we say konnichiwa. A lot of people are familiar with konnichiwa. But yes, I have a degree in Japanese, so I can kind of sort of speak it a little bit.
Wow, that's
Awesome.
very interesting. Yeah.
All right, number 31. What television commercial do you remember fondly as when you were a child?
Oh, we reference this all the time, but the Sears air conditioner commercial, you know, tomorrow's supposed to be hotter like yesterday. Yesterday you said you'd call Sears. I'll call today. You'll call now. I'll call now.
Oh, okay. I'm with you. Yeah.
Remember that one.
Passive aggressive.
Yeah, so anytime we talk about how hot it is outside, it inevitably slips into like, man, it's hot outside. Hot outside. Hotter than yesterday? Yesterday you said you called Sears. Oh, damn it, I'll call now. You're
I
suffocating
remember,
me. I
I
can't
remember
take
that.
this marriage anymore. I'll call now. Why?
All right, we're up to 99. What do you think of pinned insect collections?
Not my thing. A little weird. Maybe a trait of a serial killer. But also, I mean, okay, I would say it depends on what style of tie you wear. If the person with the pinned bug collection has like a bow tie, like specifically like a polka dot tie, fine, totally fine. If
Like
he's
Bill Nye or
yeah,
something.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but if he's like disheveled, and smells a bit like like 2-day-old meat or something like that, and he's like, look
Yeah.
at my bugs, and I'll be like, oh, ooh,
Yeah. That's not
so
good. The spreading of the wings and the, yeah.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I don't.
Hey,
It's not. I'm not really a. I'm not. I just don't like bugs all that much. I don't have the interest in bugs that some people do. I just don't like them.
they forced us to do that in school. You had to go out in your backyard and collect bugs, put them in a baby food jar with alcohol till they were dead,
Yeah.
and then
Ugh.
identify them and pin them. Well, I had like, done my thing, and I had a like empty egg crate I was dumping them out into after they were dead. And I'm like
Mhm.
half asleep and I hear bzzz, bzzz. He wasn't gone. And I'm like, oh my God, he's gonna come back and kill me. So we totally love all your barista
Yeah. Did you really do
slash
it all? You
fan.
did it all in 24 hours?
I mean, so what I would do for the most part is I'll try to come up with like 5 or 6 of them, and then I'll do them all in like a couple hours essentially, because it, you know when I do them I have to like set up the green screen, set up all the lighting, get everything set up, and that the setup takes like at least in like an hour and a half, to get the green screen up, to get the wrinkles out, to get the lighting
Hmm.
right, to get everything going where it's easier to edit at the end. So yeah, so I'll bang at least. My minimum is 5. I got to do at least 5 at a time or it's not worth it. So I'll do at least 5 of them all in one day. Usually it doesn't take any more than a couple hours to like do them all because I'll have them all written out. Um, But yeah, so I do 5 of them at a time, and then I'll sort of hibernate for a while until I can come up with 5 more. I don't really try to. I just kind of like let them come as they come. You know, it was always it, the initial 5 were just like jokes from. It all started with the Camelot one. It was so like I said, I do these singing streams on Friday, and one of the songs that I have on my list for people to request is "Karma" by Camelot. And anybody who's familiar with Camelot is super familiar with, how Roy Khan sings. I mean, he sings. He's so over dramatic. He's like, "I will," and so it's like, and it always reminded me, Adrian, if she ever hears this, she's gonna kill me for saying this, but it always kind of reminded me of like when I was growing up, like the kid that was really into Hot Topic, it's like just so like like I am darkness
Right.
personified. You will never see a blacker soul than me. It's like that with a theater kid. And so the joke was, when after I sang that, I was sort of like, I wonder if he like just walks around all day just doing that. Can I have change for $1? I need quarters to play
Yeah.
Miss Pac-Man. And it just kind of, I said something along the lines of like, I wonder if he walks into Starbucks like that. you know um and that one little offhanded comment just kind of like started percolating in my brain, pun intended. Um and and I was like, oh, I should do this little skit. I think it would be funny. It was around the same time that we were starting to look at like vertical video and TikTok, in like a promotional sense. We had a couple meetings with some managers, and they were more like Nashville people, and they were sort of like, "Well, are you on TikTok?" And I was like, "No, not really." And they're like, "Well, you should get on TikTok." And they said that like 4 or 5 times. I'm like, "Okay, fine, I'll get on TikTok. All right." You know,
Hmm.
me, a person who owns a cinema camera and who like owns multiple lenses and loves film. I like it breaks my soul to like turn things vertical. I can't do it. I can't.
Yeah. I understand. Yeah.
But so many people said you got to do it, you got to do it. I'm like, all right, fine, I'll give it a shot. And so that's kind of what led to that idea of like, okay, I'll make some stupid short little dumb videos and just inside jokes and whatever. And so yeah, had the idea for the Camelot one, and then I just kind of really quickly brainstorm like 4 more, because I'm like, I should, if I'm going to set this all up, I should do a couple. And I it's 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 always it's like coming back to talking about To Kill a God, where not a lot of people saw it. It's always the stupid shit that you spend like no time on. It's always the
Amen,
stupid
brother.
shit.
Tell me. Absolutely. I completely understand that. I'm just like, fuck, I can't believe that this is the one getting all the hits.
Yep.
I cannot predict it. I'll tell you what. Well, here's a
So
question. Hot Topic. Do you think when you're being interviewed at Hot Topic, if you say, I really don't like My Chemical Romance, if they're like, all right, we're done. Thanks very
yep.
much.
Sorry, gone out of there. Oh, I've
Every
never
time I
seen.
walk into one, I think that. Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
I've never
Yeah.
seen The Crow. How is it? You're fired. You're
Yeah,
fired. Get out of here. Nightmare Before
exactly.
Christmas. What's that? Get out of here. You're fired.
Also, you should check this out. James Riviera from Hellstar.
Yeah.
He does this thing where he does like pop songs in a metal way. And it's if you want to horrify the rest of the band, I think he does like Everybody Wants to Rule the World, but with he's got like actual vampire
Yep.
fangs and the leather coat and everything.
I am.
But it's
I'm.
during the day though, so it's like, well, come on, it's obviously fake because you're during the day.
I
Yeah,
am.
but James Riviera is become a vampire apparently. So
Yeah, I'm extremely familiar with James. We've had many run-ins in the past.
okay,
Yeah,
good. Yeah.
so yeah. Um, the funniest thing that I think almost nobody knows, except for maybe Lords of the Trident, like diehard Lords of the Trident fans, is I don't even drink coffee. I don't like coffee at all. I just I I don't like hot beverages. I only like cold. Oh, do you like iced coffee? It's like, well, no, because I have to like load it up with sugar, to for it to be even palatable for me. Um, but yeah, so I don't even drink coffee. So like everybody's like, "Oh, you're the coffee guy." I'm like, "Yeah, not. I guess, sure, okay,
Were
cool."
there any that you did where you're like, shit, these vocals are really hard? Like, were there any that you were surprised at, like that they were challenging?
Oh yeah, I think part of it, yeah, I think part of the fun of it, is that almost everybody that I do these coffee videos about has like a very unique vocal style.
Right.
And I during the pandemic when I was doing the power converter covers, I was doing them partially as like tribute to my friends and to people that we've played with and all that sort of stuff, but also partially as like a challenge to see if I could cop these styles and if I could sing these songs. The one that to this day I am the most proud of is doing three different people from Avantasia. Um, that was probably the most difficult song I've ever tried to sing. Um, in three different voices. That was
Yeah.
extraordinarily difficult, but extraordinarily fun. And I find those sort of challenges like really rewarding, really fulfilling, and really really fun. If somebody's like, "You can't sing that," I'm like,
Yeah. I know
nah, I
what you
think I
mean.
can. You know, um, a lot of people think that the Nightwish one is pretty crazy, but that one was actually not that difficult to sing. I think, God, if I have to look back on it, probably some of the harder ones to like really nail. Um, I mean, I think the Iron Maiden one is a little bit
Scream
difficult
for
too.
me, barista. Yeah.
Mhm.
I thought that was well done. Yeah.
We do a cover of "Hallowed Be Thy Name," but we do it a step down because all of our guitars are dropped anyway, so it's easier just to, not think about transposing the original key, but just play it as written, but your guitars are dropped down. Um, so I'm used to singing it like a step lower, and then when it's the original, I'm like, yeah, just like holy shit, like
I'm
D's,
sure Bruce is singing to step down nowadays. Come on.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I love the challenge. I think I've always been attracted to trying really really difficult vocal things because it keeps me on my toes. It was part of the reason that I started taking opera lessons like 7 years ago, because I wanted to really try to get into something very very challenging, very difficult, very outside of my comfort zone, um, to kind of expand my vocal repertoire. I just love those sort of challenges. When somebody's like, "Oh, this guy's like such a good singer. Nobody can sing what he can sing." I'm like,
Yeah. Hey,
hmm.
speaking of opera, you ever notice like in Hollywood they always use that same fucking opera song, the one that's in Shawshank.
Done a lot
Oh,
of
the
those.
Marriage
It's
of Figaro. Yeah, the Marriage of Figaro.
yeah. It's like that's the Hollywood go-to opera song. It's in whenever they say we need an opera song, it's like that's the one.
I think that yeah, I think that one's very like slow and soulful.
Inception, that's the one I'm thinking
Inception.
of.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That I never thought about that before, but that is interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have a big European tour coming up. How did that come together? And is it Bradier or Bradier?
Bright Ear.
Right here.
So kind of awkward. But our the tour actually. So you guys are the first people to know about this publicly, but the tour ended up getting canceled on Tuesday.
Oh,
Oh shit.
jeez.
And we are all extremely bummed out, extremely depressed about it. And it wasn't so I can't talk about why it was canceled. What I can because there's a lawsuit
Right,
pending.
right.
Oh.
Yeah, please don't. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
What I can tell you is that it wasn't our fault. It wasn't anything that we did, and it was something. that some party did that was not related to any of the bands that was illegal.
Okay.
And there's pending litigation right now about it. But we were blindsided by it.
Wow.
And we actually ended up losing about $5,000
Oh,
from like
that
non-refundable
sucks.
plane
Yeah.
tickets, non-refundable, reservations, non-refundable this and that. Because we were so sure it was happening. We even had like t-shirt design ready. We had everything set to go. So we were heavily blindsided by it. And we were all pretty depressed about it because we were very much looking forward to going back to Europe. We hadn't been back to Europe since 2019. And we were like, this year's the year. We had a support slot going, and this is going to be, this is going to be finally the one tour that I didn't have to do everything and plan everything myself. I could just show up and be a support act and not have to like handle logistics, do the spreadsheets, like deal with the agent at the end of the night, like sell the merch.
Yeah.
I don't have to do any of that shit. I just had to show up and perform. So I was like, finally, after 16 years, I get to do a tour like a normal human being instead of busting my ass being, 400 different people. And it was so close. It was a month away. It was so close, and then they canceled it. And
Oh, that sucks. Yeah.
so yeah, we're all pretty bummed about it. Yeah.
Mm.
At least you have your secret show coming up, so I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
Might have to log in for that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Secret show coming up on Saturday.
This is the Snaggletooth Rock and Roll Podcast.